Do you have any books on your TBR with pink on the cover? And if so, which ones are you going to pick up the week before Valentine's? Hi friends and readers, I'm really excited to be doing a reading vlog this week. My name is Victoria if you've never seen a video of mine. I do work full-time about 40 hours in the week and I usually read about 1 to 2 books a week, and I try to find fun ways to get books off my TBR and to just read because reading is fun. We are about 8 days out from Valentine, so I thought what better way to get 2 books off my TBR than pick 2 of them that have pink on the cover, because why not? One of these books that has pink on the cover was just released not that long ago, I think within the last 2 weeks, and then the other one with pink on the cover was released a while back and has been on my TBR for a few months now. And the bonus, not because they have pink on the cover, but because they just happen to both be romance books, it will be a romance reading week, which last year romance was my most read genre. This year though, we're starting out a little bit more with contemporary fiction and historical fiction, so I need some romance in my life right now. It is currently Thursday and I'm going to pick up the first book with pink on the cover, something that I've been anticipating for so long now since I found out about the announcement. So I'm gonna follow up with you once I've picked up that book and gotten a little bit into it to tell you what we're reading. Really only the next day. It's been about 24 hours since I last talked to you, and we started our first book of this week, the pre-Valentine's, getting in the romance mood with books that have pink on the cover, and that first book is Half His Age by Jeanette McCurdy. And if you are wondering, the pink is on this little puffy title, and also I think, I don't know, these are kind of like pink lips. The inside of it's very pinky with this, and I'm just obsessed with this color scheme. I think it is so Valentine, so romance. This like plum color on the front cover and on the hardback version of this book. And then I also picked out my bookmark that I made last week. I'm really into the felt crafts recently, and I made a little tabby cat hand because I do have a tabby cat for the bookmark, and it has a little bit of pink on it as well. But yeah, oh my god, Half His Age by Jeanette McCurdy. I picked up Jeanette McCurdy's memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died, back when it came out. Well, actually I didn't pick it up. I listened to it on Spotify Premium with my boyfriend actually, and we both had a good time reading it despite all of the hard qualities of a memoir like that. And I know a lot of people in the book content world will say that they don't really know how to rate a memoir, and I feel similar to that sentiment. It's hard to rate a story about someone's life, and I thought what better way to move from memoir to a romance fictional story. Now I do feel comfortable rating a story like this, and boy oh boy, this is actually right up my alley, something that I really needed. Last week I read the saddest books on my TBR, which were The Women by Kristen Hanna and A Little Life. Very, very massive, very sad, very long book, and picking up a book like this one is exactly what I needed. I have always thought how I wanted the I'm Glad My Mom Died book on my bookshelf, but I had never picked it up, and so I decided to order this one and treat myself with another hardback copy, which I really don't do often. It's like the only book every few months that I do this. This is a new release by Jeanette McCurdy. It came out at the end of January. As soon as I found out about her writing her first novel, I thought I'm definitely going to pick that up. I even showed my boyfriend the cover and he was like, what are you getting yourself into? And I was like, I don't know, but I'm sad. And why I say that this is the perfect book is because I started it yesterday and I have absolutely ran through it. I read 140 pages yesterday, and most of those, I'd say probably 100 of those were last night, just sitting in bed. It was so bingeable. And now I'm currently on page 166, and I'm already more than halfway through, so sorry I didn't update you sooner, but just didn't have the time. And I'm sure the next time I update you, I'll be finished with this book probably by tonight. It's currently lunchtime on Friday. The chapters are so short. Most of them are 1 to 3 pages long. I think I of run into a 4-page chapter. Very quick writing, very bingeable. I think if you're coming out of a slump, this is a great book to pick up. Why it feels so bingeable is that it's very relatable, at least if you're relating to our main character Waldo. Hey queen, I see you, I feel you. She writes the things about like fast shopping, doom scrolling, online shopping, and how you do these things and you never quite satisfy that itch. And then these small little mentions of Survivor and shopping in a mall back when malls were relevant, and Victoria's Secret and what it meant to buy perfume and a bra from Victoria's Secret. Things like that that I just understand and feel relatable, so I'm just breezing through it. I'm sure we're gonna finish this book in no time, but if you're interested in picking it up, we are following Waldo. Waldo is a 17-year-old who lives in Alaska. I'm not gonna say much about the premise of this story because it's so short that you get to the premise pretty quickly. Waldo is in high school. She's falling for her high school teacher. He is a English teacher or creative writing teacher, and the thing about Waldo is she's gonna get what she wants, and you know what she wants. I myself am not 17, I am 24, but I can still find bits of Waldo that I see in my childhood and my past as a girl who grew up maybe with financial insecurities. So if you do anything, I suggest just picking up this book and see where maybe you can find some connection points to Waldo and Waldo's life. I'll update you when I finish this book. So far, we're starting out, in my opinion, great for this week of reading. Friday night, 7:57. We have finished Half His Age by Jeanette McCurdy. It was a total of 273 pages, which is exactly what I need. I'm gonna put the dust cover back on. I really did like this little plum maroon looking color, and of course the bits of pink. This might be one of the shorter books I've read, and it makes me realize that I need to read some more books that are just under 300 pages. Half His Age by Jeanette McCurdy. Let me just start by saying that this is romance, but this is messy romance. Our main character, Waldo, which love the name Waldo, is going after her teacher, and she starts out as 17 years old in this. Her teacher's name is Mr. Corgi, which in normal books, not normal books, in other books that I read where their names are not commonly heard, at least not in my social circle, I usually am a little bit thrown off by that and kind of off-put by it. But in this scenario, I really wasn't, which is great news. This stuff is messy. It is not your clean, cute girl romance story, so don't go into it thinking that. However, with messiness is real life, so there are tons and tons of things in Waldo's life that I feel like any girl could relate to in some way, shape, or form, even if it's not the messy bits. There's a quote that I really liked. It's the peace and freedom that can only come from lowering your expectations of someone, from letting go of that person you wanted them to be, needed them to be, and in the letting go of that version, letting go too of all the resentments that came from them not being that version. And I thought that that was a really good sentiment to keep in my head as I just do life with other people. Some other notes that I took on my phone while reading the last half of the book. There is something in here about Waldo, and part of the way that I related to Waldo as the main character, watching Survivor constantly. I am definitely in my Survivor era. I got my boyfriend to watch with, and Jeanette McCurdy is putting in Survivor so much into this story. In fact, tomorrow we're going on the idol hunt that the Survivor fan base is doing, which I'm so excited for. And then she mentioned something like they're playing board games, Codenames, and Codenames is like the big game that my friends and I all play. So really just lots of pieces of connections that made me really interested in the story, despite it being something that I may not be comfortable in my real life reading. And maybe this is just on my mind because I'm watching the episodes as they come out, but I'm watching Tell Me Lies, and Tell Me Lies is probably the closest messy thing. Now Tell Me Lies is way messier, and I think Tell Me Lies, is that a book? I don't know. This is the only thing that I have any reference to compare this to. It's the first of this type of romance genre that I've really read, read and not watched on TV. It's really hard for me to figure out how to rate this, and it's definitely something that would be hard to recommend to someone just because I don't know if someone wants to read this type of romance. Maybe it's not something that I would tell my coworkers to read, but I actually had a really good time. It was short, it was quick, there were things that I could relate to the main character about. I think that for this book, it was meant to be unsettling, and I do think a little bit polarizing. That feels like the intentions behind the writing for it. It is one of those that I would say maybe check the trigger warnings if you're going to read it. I will have to go online to see the discourse about this book just because I wonder if the discourse is also really polarizing, because I have not seen some of the people that I like to pay attention to and usually have recommendations from read it and talk about it just yet, and I'm very interested. All that being said, I am going to rate this a 3.5 stars. It is Friday night, so I am probably going to start the next book with pink on the cover that I got from Libby, the e-library, tonight probably to fall asleep, and I'll update you maybe tomorrow depending on how my idol search goes for our state for Survivor once I've made it somewhat of the way into the second book of the week. Talk to you later. Welcome back. It is now Sunday. It's about 3:09 and we really just have a relaxing day ahead of us. I've done a little bit of reading today. I did not read it all yesterday, which was Saturday. We went on our Survivor manhunt for the idol in our state, and honestly it was a very long and exhausting experience. We met some people that we had a great time chatting with in the line, but aside from that, it was extremely cold outside and we waited for 5 hours and barely made the cutoff. So let me know if you've done the survival idol hunt in your state, Survivor idol hunt, or know what I'm talking about at all. And now it's today. We picked up the next book that has pink on the cover, and that is Butcher and Blackbird, and this is by Bren Weaver. Butcher and Blackbird has been on my TBR for months and months and months. It's one of those books that I saw that other people had read and even recommended. I just never got around to it. It's apparently book number 1 in a trilogy called the Ruinous Love Trilogy. It's 355 pages long, and I'm gonna go online and do a little bit of search about this trilogy and the author. This will be the first book that I've read by Bren Weaver. I have actually been seeing a bookstore around this area talk about Bren Weaver coming in for the book tour that they are on, and that makes me think that maybe they had a book come out recently or a book coming out recently, so I want to go check really quickly before we get into Butcher and Blackbird. I did get this book on my Kindle from the Libby app, e-library version of the book, and I have just stopped on chapter 9, which is Creance, and that is page 89. So we are 28% of the way through this book, and it is dual point of view between our two main characters, Butcher and Blackbird. Has pretty good ratings on Goodreads. It's got a 4.01 out of 624,000 reviews. A lot of the booktubers that I like to watch have also rated it. Okay, and it was published in 2023. Book number 2 came out in 2024, and it looks like book number 3 came out February 2025. So all books in the trilogy are out. Now let's see what this author is up to. They have a good bit of other books. Okay, it looks like they just started another trilogy and releasing it. Something called Tourist Season and Harvest Season, which Harvest Season is expected coming out in June. So it looks like they are expecting to put out a book shortly, which makes sense based off of seeing them at that local bookstore on a book tour coming up. Now, I picked out Butcher and Blackbird because it's been on my TBR for a while, but it does have pink on the cover. And now that I'm a little bit of the ways into this, about 90 pages into this, boy did I pick the messiest romance books with pink in the cover this week. I did not know what I was getting myself into when I picked up these books. I think that this is rated as romance, but I also feel like there's gotta be some other categories and genres that it's listed as. Okay, it says that it could be listed as dark romantic comedy, which makes sense. Dark romance and I guess dark romantic comedy is out of my my willpower. It is not genre of comfort for me. More recently, I do love romance. I like a sports romance, and I've kind of been putting that on the back burner and picking up more historical fiction or contemporary fiction, and really have enjoyed doing that. And I have not started out this year with a lot of romance, which is totally opposite from last year. So this week has been me going back to my roots, but also kind of not, with these two romantic stories that I've picked up. This is a messy book. So we're following Sloane, and Sloane is the part of the title that's Blackbird. She kills serial killers. Yes, you heard that right, and I don't know if saying those words flags this video in any ways. Someone let me know. Yeah, basically anyone that also people. Kind of being a hero by getting rid of the bad people in this world, but also in the end you're also kind of a bad person because I don't even want to broach that subject. Sloane is the female main character in the story, but we also have our male main character, Rowan. And Rowan also people who are bad. And eventually they stumble across each other in their career workplace setting. And that sparks a friendship between the two. Kind of this bantery, chemistry-filled friendship, because you don't see a lot of people in this industry and you can't talk to a lot of people about what you do. I do think that they have cover jobs. I know that our male main character Rowan works as a chef or in his family restaurant, and I think our female main character Sloane does data science. Kind of are 90 pages in and have really not heard much about that, and so they've had this friendship kindle because they have a point of connection, one would say. And now they're sort of playing this game where they find someone who's a target and they race to see who can finish that target off first. Yes, I have never read a book like this, nor do I know if I'm going to continue to read books like this. However, my interest is piqued. I don't know, I can see the comedic banter, and it's hilarious if you put aside if this were real life, what they were actually doing. I watched a lot of Dexter with my boyfriend, so it kind of is giving Dexter vibes, but in a romantic, dark way. So we're just gonna keep reading. I'll update you to see how we feel coming into tomorrow. Today the Super Bowl is on, so I plan to read a little bit more before 6 o'clock today. I just got a replacement for my Kindle holder so I can read in bed tonight. Mine broke last week. So we're just gonna get cozy and keep reading and see how we feel about dark romance. I'll talk to you later. Hello, hello. The last time I talked to you, I think, was Sunday, and it is now Tuesday. I did work in person Monday and today, and I will work from home the rest of the week, but I got a lot of reading done on my breaks at work, and that's why a lot of the filming for my clips the last few days have just been at home at night because I don't really film while I'm at work, obviously. We actually finished Butcher and Blackbird today at work, which probably not the best book to be reading at work, but honestly this is hilarious because most of my coworkers, when I told them this is what I was reading, hesitantly were like, hey, I've actually read that, and we were able to talk about it. This was hilarious because if you know anything from what I've just told you recently about this book, the dark romantic comedy, it is probably not a workplace book you would chat about, but some of my coworkers really enjoyed it. I will say, coming from someone who does not read dark romance, I did find this book very comedic. I think that the comedic element of this dark romance, in particular which is a very specific genre, you probably really actually have to enjoy that genre, know what to expect for this genre to have a good time reading it. With all that being said, I did like the comedic quips. I liked our two main characters if I could set aside what they did in their free time. Now, there are some crazy parts of this, I guess you would call them tropes, that come with being dark romance, potentially, maybe. I don't know if these are common plot points, but Bryn Weaver does give a little bit of a warning in the beginning of the book, and I forgot about the warning, and then when these things happen I was like, oh, okay. In particular, ice cream, that's all I'll say. And then the ending, I saw where it was going, but honestly it prepared me to be more excited for book number 2, which does not follow our characters Sloane and Rowan from this book. We'll actually follow a brother and a best friend, I believe, for book number 2. And it kind of made me excited, but also I just don't know if this is my comfort level or my comfort read as far as this genre and what type of kind of gory things happened in this story. If it's gonna follow the same type of path to book number 2, I'm not really sure if I want to read it immediately or at all. I am still gonna give this book a 3-star. I finished it in just a few days. I did honestly have a good time reading it, and it was kind of funny when you put aside the other stuff. I don't know, maybe if I do like a fun game sometime where I randomly get books picked off my TBR and the second book pops up, I will put it on my TBR, just not sure when it will happen. But a 3-star for Bryn Weaver, and I don't know, if there are other dark romance books that aren't involving the ice cream aspect of this book and a little less gory details that you see in this book, let me know any of those recommendations. I did have a really cool time picking these books off my TBR just because they had pink on the cover. Is there a color out there I should do next for a video like this? These may have been books that if I knew what they were about or really looked into summaries of them, I might not have ever read. So it's always fun to continue to read off my TBR. And then just let me know if there are any other books I should throw on my TBR that have a pink cover that I clearly should have read this week before Valentine's. And I think that's all. Bye for now.